And what we want to do on the top of page 6 is we want to take f of x and sketch a graph of the derivative. Now, the biggest thing here is this is going to be a sketch of the derivative. Is it going to be perfect? No. Is it going to be spot on if I calculate the derivative and pick and plot points? No. If I'm looking at this graph, do I even know what f of x is? I mean, it looks like I could speculate, I don't know, maybe it's negative cosine, but it might not be, right? It could be something totally different. So with that said, we just need a little bit of information. So again, there are many of us who have not seen this before. So when we are looking at f of x, this is the original function. When we're looking at f prime, we are looking at f of x's slope, right? Okay. So when f prime of x is greater than 0, that means f prime's graph will be above the x-axis. That's what this is right here, above the x-axis. When the slope of f is positive. When f prime, I'm just going to leave off the x so that I can save some room, is less than 0, that means the slope of this graph here is negative. That means f prime's graph will be below the x-axis. When f prime is equal to 0, f prime's graph is going to be on the x-axis. Because isn't that where x is equal to 0? X-axis? Okay. So, I'm going to write 3 steps on this side over here. Okay? When we are sketching, sketch, it's a sketch. Okay? Sketch. It's not perfect. F prime's graph, the first thing we want to look for is where f of x has a horizontal tangent line. Basically, we're looking for a slope of 0. That's the first thing we're going to look for. So I'm going to look at this graph on the left, okay? And I just want you to tell me how many times is there a place where the slope is equal to 0? Nowhere? I can draw a horizontal tangent line to this curve. 3. Horizontal tangent line for those of us. This, right here. I know, guys, I know this is over here, but this is the only place I have space. This one. You're like, nowhere? That is correct for this one. Yes, we're talking about this graph. So, and we're like 3. Oh, right here. Here we have a horizontal tangent line, here we have a horizontal tangent line, and here. We're focusing on the curviest graph that we have so far. Don't look down below, because that one's kind of crazy. Just right here, upper left. Everybody good? I just want to make sure we're all in the same place. No, don't. Okay. What that means is f prime's graph will cross the x-axis at that point. So what I need to do is, whatever this point is, approximately what, negative 3, I'm going to put a dot here, a dot here, and a dot here. Okay? So that means if you take a look at this graph, what's the slope here? What's the slope here? Okay, so this point is going to be a point of transition where f prime's graph will go from either above to below or below to above. Does everyone understand that? Okay, because look at the slope. Slope goes from positive to negative right here. Does that make sense? Okay, so since I made this green, I'm going to use my green highlighter, and I'm looking at where I have positive slopes. So here I have a positive slope, so I'm just going to mark this with positive, positive, positive. Here the slope is negative, so I got to go here, positive, 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 and then here it's negative. Okay, so what this means is, on this portion of my graph and this portion of my graph, there is a point for f prime that is above the x-axis, because this slope is positive. So we're going to approximate the slope. Just, it's approximate. What do you think the slope would be here, the steepest slope in between? I don't know. About 2? I mean, it's again, it's an approximation. So if you think it's a little bit less than 2, that's fine. But what that means is, I don't know, somewhere around 2. It might be more like 1.5, so I'll put it kind of in between. How about that? I have a point here that is above because of this slope. Is this graph symmetric-ish? Yes. So that means, shouldn't this slope be approximately the same? Okay, so I'm going to go over here and mark the same point. Now, is that always going to happen? No. But in this case, that's what it is. So what this means is my graph, and I'll draw it in green, okay, oops, is going to be above the x-axis here. I know, something like this. Here, and maybe here. Now, you know, at these blue points, there is a transition where this portion of my graph is going to go below, because before is a negative slope. Does everyone see that? Is this going to be perfect? No, it's not. So positive slope, here's my point. I have some kind of curve above. Positive slope, here's my point, some kind of curve above. So now we're looking to see where our slope is negative, because that's the only thing that's left. We looked at 0, we looked at positive. So we go negative, 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 negative. Okay, this blue dot right here? This one right here. It's the point. So we approximated this slope to be between 1 and 2. So I put this point, see here? It's between 1 and 2. It's the point on the graph. It's f prime's point. So this slope had to be the same. So this is f prime's point. Now, wouldn't this slope be approximately the same value?
Yes.
Okay, but if I have a negative slope, where does this need to be?
Below the...
Yes, below the x-axis. So, I don't know, maybe down here. And then I would have to do the same thing over here. Is this true? Something like this. Again, it's an approximate value. Okay, so what's happening here is this, based on the fact that I'm going to have to connect this is part of my graph. This is also part of my graph, so isn't it going to have to go something like this? And this is also part of my graph. I don't know what's happening after this. Well, now I have to connect everything. So remember, this green portion, this blue dot, this pink portion, green, blue dot, pink, this is all f prime's graph. So now I have to connect everything. So from whatever this value is here to about negative 3, f prime should be above the x-axis. Why? Because the slope is positive. So would it be safe for me to bring this still down? Even though the slope is negative, it has nothing to do with the slope, right? It's the graph is above. But then here's my transition point, and that means the rest of my graph between here and here needs to be below, true? So that means I could sketch like this. I just connected, and I missed my point. Sorry about that. Here, still below, but I'm connecting this portion of my graph. So can I do the same thing here? So if I were to draw the whole thing, and I'll just do it in a different color, which is going to bleed all the way through, but that's fine. Looks like this. Is it perfect? No. But the key portions are this. Where's the slope 0? Where's the slope positive? That means f prime's graph. So this right here is f prime of x. The graph is above the x-axis. Then from here to here, my graph is below. That means this slope is negative, the graph is below. Okay, then from here to here, my slope is positive. That means the graph has to be above. And then from here to, we don't know what's happening after this. Yes?
Does it matter where the points are as long as it's above or below the
It needs to be approximately, so what you're looking at is what's the value of the slope, so it's going to be a general. That's why Jay was saying it's about 2. I thought it was kind of 1.5, so I put it between 1 and 2. So if you had yours at like 1 and his was closer to 2, it's a speculation. But if you had it really close to the x-axis, I think I would, that's implying that the slope is close to 0. Does that make sense? Okay. Let's take a look at this one. Tell me about this point right here. Can you find the slope here? No. So as we get close to where x is 0, we're going to have an open circle. Does everyone understand why? We don't have a slope there. So look here. Tell me about this slope. Okay, it's negative, so therefore this portion of my graph is going to be located where for f prime? Below the x-axis. But even more so, is this slope a constant value? -1. Yeah, -1. So that means it's a straight line, right, at -1. Let me use here. But this has to be an open circle, because this is not defined. True? Okay, so what about after? Tell me about this slope here. +1. Is it defined here? So I would do the same thing. Open circle, positive. So the pink, right here, is f prime. So over here, the second thing we did was we looked at f of x and where the slope was positive. The third thing we did, and this actually is where f prime of x will be above the x-axis. And then here, f of x, where m is negative, and this is where f prime of x will be below the x-axis. Okay, so we looked at 3 things. Where's the slope 0? Where's the slope positive? And where's the slope negative? And again, it's a generalization as to where the graph is going to be. Dridi pointed out, like, do you have to pick exact points? You need to get as close as you can based on the slope. But again, we're speculating because we don't have teeny tiny grids for every single thing. Okay, so I know you guys can still see these notes, so I'm going to move over just a little bit. Okay, if this is f of x, we want the graph of f prime. That means we're looking at the slope of this graph. What is the slope of this graph? Yeah, I'm talking about this one, the third one. Yep. 0. So where's my graph? That's 0, right? So it's right here. You're looking, this is f of x. To get f prime, remember f prime is notation for what? The derivative. And what's the derivative? It is the slope. Okay? So if this is f of x, what's the slope of this line? 0. You're on a treadmill. 0 incline, right? So that means that's where the equation of the line is. It's at 0. Boom. This is f prime. Yeah.
So basically we're given the graph
of f.
Of f, and then we make the slope, we represent another line.
You represent another graph by using the slope of f of x. It's to represent f prime, because that's what f prime is. It's the slope of f.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay? So what I want you guys to do at some point on your own time is I want you to do these 3 and take a look at them. They are on Blackboard. Okay? It takes practice. I will tell you right now that these are not on the quiz, but you will see them again. Okay, these types of things. Okay, this takes a lot of practice. Okay, I've been teaching this 5 years, still practicing.